Hello. Today is the feast of Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi is not a feast that you find in the Eastern Church. There are two reasons why, as far as I can see. First of all, there's a question of how the Orthodox Church approach liturgy itself. They see liturgy as far more of an immersive experience than perhaps we do in the West. And that's to do with the attitude that we have. In the West, we have a very sort of theological, intellectual way. We try to understand things. In the East, they try to experience things. And one of the big things in Eastern thought is the idea of preserving the mind of Christ. And I don't see deductive reasoning and an intellectualization of dogmas as being particularly inspiring and helpful practically for Christians. So, for a church whose life is bound up experiencing the Eucharist, so much of the liturgy, the whole business of experiencing it is fundamental. And that's something that perhaps we don't have in the West, and this is perhaps why the devotion to the Corpus Christi has grown up. It was, I think it's St. Juliana or something like that, St. Julia, who noticed that she was given a vision of the moon, and there's a dark spot on it. And the idea was that the dark spot was due to an absence of the feast of Corpus Christi. She took that dark spot to mean that the Catholic Church needed to have this feast, and so through a few popes later, who tried to get the solemnity set up, finally it fell to St. Thomas Aquinas to write the office for it, and it's one of the most famous and favourite offices with regard to the sacraments and understanding of the sacraments. So, isn't it a bit of an indictment, you might say, that the East don't need to celebrate Corpus Christi because they live lives that are Eucharistically focused anyway? Isn't this saying that actually we intellectuals, haven't we lost something by not focusing so well in our masses? Now, there's something to be said for that, and that's something we need to address. But nonetheless, we have got Corpus Christi. We have it, and it does give us an opportunity to reflect upon the Mass, distancing ourselves perhaps a little bit from the sadness of Maundy Thursday, because in the Triduum, of course, the focus is on the rather emotionally charged events of the death and resurrection of our Lord. But to have a feast where we can sort of sit back and look at it and say, this is the central point of the Christian life, the Mass. It's where we come to meet God. And it's where we come to meet Him in a way that is so unlike other religions, to be honest. Now, of course, I'm a Catholic. Anglican Catholic is a Catholic. Again, my Roman brothers and sisters might say otherwise, but nonetheless, I am a Catholic, and that means that I hold very, very dearly to the doctrine of the real presence. Indeed, the Anglican Catholic Church has an understanding of the real presence. Now, what does that mean? It means that we believe somehow that when you ask the question, what is it before consecration, we will say it is bread and wine. If you ask the same question, what is it after consecration, we will say the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. So there has been a transformation. There is some sort of transubstantiation here, though we don't dogmatically define what that is, unlike the Roman Church. I personally am in agreement with St. Thomas Aquinas as to what's happening, but because my church hasn't dogmatically defined what's going on here, like the Eastern Church, I don't insist on it. I don't insist on my brothers and sisters thinking the same way. All I invite them to think about is what's going on. Namely, what is it before consecration? What is it afterwards? And for me, what I can't understand is the idea that it could be otherwise. My beloved Protestant brothers and sisters, of course, are very wary of the Mass. And indeed, some have changed the idea of what's going on. Some will look at it as being a bare memorial. They're just doing something in remembrance of Jesus. Others will say, well, Jesus is present in the action of consuming, in the action of receiving. I'm afraid I don't buy it. I think that the scriptures are very, very clear that Jesus gives his flesh as meat indeed. And that gives us grounds to experience it. It gives us grounds to become like the Eastern Church, to immerse ourselves in our liturgy. And as Anglican Catholics, we have very, very fine liturgy. It really is superb. We can immerse ourselves in that and then focus on what we're coming up to and receiving something which the eyes of our faith take over from the eyes of our soul. At one point in the Mass, I have to hold up the host over the chalice, and I say, all honour and glory be thine, and my eyes are fixed firmly on what I have in my hands, because I believe that I have in my hands the real, objective presence of God himself. The objective presence of God, the active presence of God, that's what we know as grace. Now, my Protestant brothers and sisters don't go with that. That is their way of doing things. I think they miss out. But then perhaps I have the greater charge against me, because if I'm wrong, it's idolatry. I don't believe it to be so. Because I believe in what Jesus has promised me. That if I fulfill my part of the covenant, he will fulfill his part in the covenant. And that's what a sacrament is, that word sacramentum, that that expression of a legal transaction, and of course with the whole Old Testament idea of covenantal relationship between me and God, between us and God, between the church and God. So Corpus Christi, it's a day where we need to immerse ourselves in the importance of the Mass. We need to experience it. We need to pray in it and with it. And we do need to get a deeper appreciation of precisely what we're either holding in our hand or gets placed on our tongue. So God bless you. God bless you if you are receiving Holy Communion for the first time. God bless you that it may be an experience that will resonate through your life forever in joy and happiness. God bless you if you are struggling with the whole concept of the Mass, that God may help you see with the eyes of faith what is true. And God bless you that you may attain to that wonderful wedding feast of the Lamb that is in heaven. God bless you, and please pray for me.